Did you know Utah is one of the only states in America that still allows execution by a firing squad? And the DA is already pushing for it in the case of Tyler Robinson, the man accused of killing Charlie Kirk. Robinson's name has dominated headlines since the shooting. But the big question is, if he's convicted and sentenced to death, what will his life actually look like behind bars? What does death row in Utah really mean? Today, we're going to take you inside that world. Robinson is accused of assassinating Charlie Kirk from a rooftop in broad daylight. Prosecutors are signaling the death penalty is on the table. That means Robinson wouldn't just be facing life in prison. He could be facing a slow countdown to execution. Utah's death row is housed inside the Utah State Prison near Salt Lake City. And life there is nothing like what you've seen in movies about general prison population. It isn't card games in the yard or loud cafeterias. It is silence. It is routine. It is isolation, hour after hour, year after year. Picture a cell barely bigger than a walk-in closet. 7 feet wide, 12 feet long. A thin mattress on a steel bed. A small desk bolted to the wall. A metal toilet. That's where Robinson would spend 23 hours every single day. His meals? They come on a tray slid through a slot in the door. No cafeterias, no dining hall, no face-to-face conversations. Just food through the slot and silence. 1 hour a day, Robinson might get what's called yard time. But don't picture grass, basketball courts, or sunlight pouring down. Utah's death row yard is a concrete pen surrounded by high fencing and razor wire. It's a cage inside another cage. He could walk in circles, stare up at the sky, but he'd still be locked inside a box. Contact with people? Only through glass. If his family visits, there are no hugs, no handshakes, no chance to touch the ones he loves. Just a phone on the wall, a glass barrier between them, and guards watching every second. For a man in his 20s, that could mean decades without ever touching another free human being again. Inmates on death row often say the silence is worse than the sentence. With no normal human contact, some slowly unravel. Some talk to themselves for hours. Some stop talking at all. Some beg for execution just to end the waiting. That's the psychological toll of years in isolation, and that's what Robinson could face if the jury sends him there. But here's the twist. Even if Robinson gets the death penalty, he won't be executed right away. Appeals can drag on for 15 to 20 years. Lawyers will file motion after motion, looking for mistakes in the trial. Courts will hear arguments over and over again. Families will be forced to sit through years of hearings, reliving the crime again and again. For Robinson, that means his death sentence would become a life sentence of waiting, locked in a cell while the system grinds slowly toward the end. And then there's the method. Most states use lethal injection, but Utah has a backup law on the books. If the drugs aren't available, execution can be carried out by firing squad. 5 trained marksmen, 4 live bullets, 1 blank. Robinson strapped to a chair, a target placed over his heart. It's brutal, it's final, and it's very real. Utah last used the firing squad in 2010 to execute Ronnie Lee Gardner. And if Robinson is sentenced to die, he could one day face the same end. So what would that final day look like? Robinson would be woken early, allowed one last meal. He might be given the chance to say a few words to family, but always behind glass. Then, hours later, guards would lead him into a chamber lit with bright lights and surrounded by witnesses. He would be strapped to a wooden chair. A hood might be placed over his head. And across from him, behind a wall, 5 rifles would be aimed at his chest. A doctor would mark his heart with a small target. And when the order is given, the shots would ring out. Silence would follow. And it would all be over. That's the law in Utah. And that's the reality the DA is pushing for if Tyler Robinson is convicted. But Robinson's case is about more than just one man. It's about the culture of hate that fueled him. Reports already show he lived with a trans partner. He was no conservative. Yet in the first days after the shooting, some media outlets tried to paint him as being on the political right. That's not journalism, that's spin, and it's dangerous. Because spin fuels division. Division fuels hate. And hate leads to violence. Charlie Kirk wasn't killed by chance. He was killed by someone consumed by rage. And when the media lies to fit their narrative, it only creates more division, more anger, and more tragedies like this. Now zoom out for a second. This isn't just about Utah. Across America, people are being pushed into corners where they see their neighbors as enemies. Every headline is written to make one side furious at the other. Every news cycle feels like gasoline poured on a fire. And when that happens long enough, someone eventually picks up a match. That's what happened with Robinson, fueled by anger, fueled by hate, fueled by a divided nation. Robinson could spend decades in a concrete box, waiting for the state to carry out justice. But Charlie Kirk's family has already been sentenced to a lifetime of grief. His wife Erica and his children will carry this pain forever. Robinson may one day face a firing squad, but the real cost is what his crime has already taken away from them. Death row isn't quick justice. It isn't an immediate end. It is years of slow decay, isolation, silence, and hopelessness. And if Robinson ends up there, that will be his reality. A small cell, 23 hours of solitude, years of appeals. And maybe one day, the sound of gunfire echoing in a Utah prison. Whether you agree with the death penalty or not, this story forces us to ask, how did we get here? How did a man like Robinson become so consumed by hate that he climbed a rooftop, aimed at Charlie Kirk, and pulled the trigger? And what role did the media play in shaping that path? Because if we don't face those questions now, we're going to see more tragedies, more lives destroyed, more division that no death sentence can ever repair. The shooting ended Charlie Kirk's life in an instant. But Robinson's punishment could stretch across decades. And in the end, the silence of death row may speak louder than any courtroom sentence ever could. If you want to dig deeper into how division and the media are fueling this crisis in America, check out my other video right here. The media is fueling a civil war. Because this story isn't over, and the bigger battle has only just begun,